Institute. And on that application was a blank, how do we recommend you? And he said this, I'm a prisoner in the state penitentiary. I don't recommend that you use that when you apply for a college. But it worked for him and they accepted him. And ultimately he became a teacher at Moody Bible Institute, and the last that I knew, he was working for a PhD at Wheaton University up at Wheaton, Illinois. Lives can be transformed, and in his case it was because a mother believed that he was a noble individual. He had a purpose in life, and she pushed him. Be glad that your parents and your teachers are pushing you. There's no end to someone who loves you and believes that you are very worthy of your attention. The third trait is to promote justice. What's right? An act of holiness and righteousness. And I trust that some of you are still reading To Kill a Mockingbird. And what a beautiful story that is of Atticus Finch, who defends Boo Radley in that unjust cause of racial discrimination. Harper Lee pictures it very well. And we see Scout Finch modeling her father because of that example. Promote justice. The fourth trait is to promote purity. Purity is to promote what is morally clean and undefiled. The term relates to our bodies, our physical bodies, as well as to our minds. And I want to suggest to you that part of that comes by reading quality literature. Quality literature. Bacon has that quote that there's some literature that we ought to chew and spit out. But there are some forms of literature that you want to chew and chew and chew some more, because it speaks to us at different stages in our lives. Shakespeare. I like Shakespeare. And whatever you read of his tragedies, you will find one premise that will always come through. Those who fight by the sword will die by the sword. And of course, the opposite is true also. Those who love will find love coming back to them. Silas Marner is one of those works that I appreciate, and it suggests the joy that a child can bring into a person's life, especially a bachelor whose concern before that time happened to be the love of money. And then there's Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451, the love of literature, purity of our deeds. And there's that one quote in that book that I really like, and it's when one of the men is describing the death of his grandfather. And he says, I do miss my grandfather, but what I miss most about my grandfather is the way that he mowed the grass. The way that he mowed the grass. Each one of you has a special skill, and you cannot use that skill unless you feed your mind with pure thoughts and with pure motives. Recognize the lovely. What promotes human understanding and growth? It's encouraging one another to be a Barnabas character. As I worked at this school district and I had a good career here, I'm very grateful for it. There are certain individuals at certain times that seem to add a little special touch. And this school was very fortunate for a number of years to have a number of exchange students. And I'm recalling now one who came from South Korea. I don't recall the name, but perhaps you could call the name. She was very, very studious. And she would be one that would come to me with her Time magazine. What does this word mean? What does this word mean? What does this word mean? And she would frequently come on Saturday morning. That's when I came to visit with her. And the last time that I saw her, she gave me a very nice gesture of encouragement. She walked out the door and she knelt on the floor. As you see, that's the technique that the Orient uses to show high respect to an individual. I bow to you. Now, I'm not suggesting that you want to bow to the people all the time. But there are those gestures that you can say to them, you are special to me. And you know, those teachers remember that comment. I did the funeral about 6 weeks ago of one of my former students. She was a teacher, happened to be in the Topeka district. And my thought, when I saw who that was, I remembered a comment that she made to me at the end of one of our final exams. She said, "This happens to be an excellent exam." And I thought, how many times does a teacher hear that comment? But I remembered that for over 20-some years. And that's how I built my message that day. Special touch that she gave. And the last part is a good report. This is promoting those acts that deal with kindness, courtesy, and respect for others. Kindness, courtesy, and respect for others. I commend this school for the recognition that you gave to Avery Hines. What a nice tribute to him. Those people have a way of adding to our lives, and we add to their lives too. I hope you continue such a practice like that. And it was this last summer when a former student of 25 years ago dropped by. I hadn't seen him all that time. In fact, he had to tell me who he was. But when I look at the eyes, there's a tendency to recognize this is actually the right person. And he was telling me about his son, who has spent the previous 6 weeks or so in boot camp. And the son was very disturbed by some of the actions of the fellow boot camp people. And so he came home and he said, "Greg, how did you train me to be so courteous?" And Greg said to him, "You find a wife like your mother. You find a wife like your mother. And the legend and the courtesy will keep on going." So, there happens to be that particular proverb that is found in Ecclesiastes 11:1, which says this: Cast your bread upon the waters, for in due time it will return. Now, you have enough science background to know what happens when you put bread in water, right? It kind of becomes soggy, doesn't it? And not too good for eating purposes. But that applies to a spiritual sense too. Cast these noble traits upon the waters, upon society, and the blessings will come back to you. Maybe not in the same form, but the Lord says, just look, they will come back. That's what makes service to be an enjoyable attribute, serving others. So, here's a loaf of bread for you to cast upon
He's a
the
pretty
waters.
good kick, just
And
saying.
it happens to be called the gift of the Magi bread. And do you know what the Magi is? No? I bet Annie Wheaton can tell me what the Magi happens to be. Magi? No?
The three wise men.
Go on. What did they add to the scriptures? They came
And they gave
to,
Jesus.
right, and they came a long ways, and they gave gifts. So, because of the courtesy of Pat Hattiger at Spearville, we have the gift of the Magi bread to be shared. God bless you, people, and may you be encouraged as you make